In 1845, 129 men sailed into the Arctic and vanished. No survivors, no final message, just two ships, gone. Years later, search teams found what was left behind: abandoned camps, frozen bodies, food still sitting untouched, and then something far worse: evidence that in their final days, those men did something unthinkable. The Arctic kept their secret for years. Even now, we're still trying to piece it together. What really happened to the Franklin expedition? In the spring of 1845, two ships slipped quietly away from England, their destination set on a prize no one had yet claimed: the Northwest Passage, a route through the Arctic that promised power, prestige, and a place in history for whoever could find it. At the helm was Sir John Franklin, a seasoned officer, respected, confident, and nearing the final chapter of his career. His ships, HMS Erebus and HMS Terror, were among the most advanced of their time. Reinforced hulls, steam engines, supplies packed for years. On paper, they were unstoppable. 129 men stood on those decks as the ships departed. Sailors, officers, engineers, each one stepping into the unknown with quiet determination. They believed they were chasing discovery. But the Arctic is not a place that rewards ambition. It is a place that tests it. As the ships pushed farther north, the world they knew began to fade, replaced by endless ice, shifting skies, and a silence so complete it felt almost unnatural. And somewhere beyond that horizon, something waited, something they could not yet see. The further north the ships sailed, the stranger the world became. Water turned to endless fields of ice, horizon met sky in a blur of white, and the sun hung low, never fully rising. The men struggled to reconcile maps with reality. What should have been open water was a maze of frozen seas and jagged ridges. Every day brought new obstacles: crushing ice floes, hidden reefs, treacherous currents. Despite their advanced ships, Erebus and Terror groaned under the pressure of the ice. The sailors, accustomed to storms and heavy seas, found the Arctic indifferent to their experience. Cold seeped into bones, frostbiting fingers and faces alike, and rations became sacred treasure. Captain Sir John Franklin remained resolute. Discipline was strict, morale bolstered by routine, and the hope of discovery burned bright. But even as they pressed onward, the ice began to close in, trapping the ships in a silent prison that would test courage, endurance, and the very will to survive. The Northwest Passage was no longer a dream. It was a cage. By late summer, the ice was no longer just a barrier. It was a trap. Erebus and Terror creaked as frozen slabs pressed against their hulls. Each movement of the ships felt like a battle against an invisible enemy. The men's days blurred into monotony, punctuated by fear. Cold bit harder, rations dwindled, and sickness began to creep quietly through the crew. Frost formed intricate patterns on portholes, a beautiful mask over the growing dread inside. Captain Sir John Franklin ordered daily inspections, drills, and careful rationing. Routine was the only weapon against panic, yet whispers of worry traveled faster than the icy wind. Outside, the Arctic was merciless. Storms swept across the ice fields, walls of snow and sleet that erased the horizon. Navigation became a guessing game. Every wrong turn threatened to crush their fragile hope. The ships, once proud symbols of British ingenuity, were now prisoners of the frozen sea. And as the men huddled in their cabins, none could foresee how far this icy grip would reach, or what sacrifices it would demand. Winter tightened its grip, and the ice became a prison. Erebus and Terror were locked fast, their once proud hulls groaning under frozen weight. The men, trapped inside, faced a new enemy: the slow erosion of hope. Food ran low. Salted meat and hardtack no longer filled hungry stomachs. They only reminded them of what they were losing. Sickness crept quietly through the cabins. Frostbitten fingers, swollen gums, and relentless fatigue claimed strength and will alike. Captain Sir John Franklin ordered rationing, strict schedules, and daily drills to maintain discipline. But even order could not fight despair. Whispers of abandoning ship grew louder, as men considered the impossible, trekking across endless ice toward a distant, uncertain salvation. Outside, the Arctic showed no mercy. Blizzards swept through, ice shifted unpredictably, and the wind howled like a warning. Every step forward was a battle, every breath a reminder of the thin line between life and death. And yet, the men pressed on. Driven by hope, fear, and the stubborn refusal to surrender, they left the ships behind, venturing into a frozen world that would test them to the limits of endurance and beyond. Years later, search parties finally reached the frozen remnants of the Franklin expedition. What they found was both tragic and unsettling. Abandoned camps littered the ice, tents collapsed under heavy snow, supplies rotted yet untouched. Skeletal remains revealed the grim truth. Starvation, disease, and the merciless Arctic had claimed the men one by one. Journals told desperate stories, notes of dwindling hope, of comrades lost, of choices made under unbearable pressure. Some entries hinted at unimaginable acts, survival driven to extremes, as men clawed at life in a world that had forgotten them. The ships, once symbols of British ambition, were now tombs of wood and iron. Erebus and Terror lay trapped in ice, silent witnesses to the suffering they had endured. And yet, fragments of courage and resilience remained. In letters, in relics, in the faint traces of human determination, the expedition whispered its story across time. The Arctic had taken them, but it had not erased them entirely. Their fate remained a haunting reminder of ambition, hubris, and the brutal reality of exploration. The Franklin expedition became more than a story of survival and loss. It became legend. Decades passed, yet the Arctic kept its secrets, revealing only fragments of what truly happened. Maps were redrawn, ships recovered, and journals studied, but questions lingered. What drove men to such extremes? How could ambition meet such unyielding cold? The world remembered Franklin and his crew not for their failure, but for their courage, their endurance, and the haunting mystery they left behind. Explorers, historians, and dreamers continued to chase the Arctic's white horizon, inspired and warned in equal measure. Erebus and Terror rest silently beneath the ice, tombs and time capsules of human hope and hubris. And every winter, when the wind scours the ice fields and the sun barely rises, the ghosts of the expedition seem to whisper, "The world is vast, the unknown is merciless. Remember us and tread carefully." Some stories do not end. They echo, they teach, and they haunt.